Their paradoxical imbalance ends in failure, but we want our characters to lead to growth. We realized this week that one of the things that we want to see in all of our writing is the idea of symmetrical main characters whose character arcs mirror each other. We believe that exploring paradoxical strengths this way will make our characters more relatable and our stories have greater impact.
And you talk about paradoxical strengths, and from my understanding, that's not really a literature term. So where does that come from and what does it mean?
Paradoxical strengths are an idea I learned from my coaching work. I give a leadership competency assessment to those that I coach. And one of the things that they get in one of the reports is a list of 12 graphs of what are called paradoxical strengths. So, for example, somebody can be strong in both self-acceptance and self-improvement. They're not necessarily opposite ends of a spectrum. They're paradoxical strengths. Another example could be frankness and diplomacy. Somebody can be strong in both, or they can be weak in both. Many times, though, there's a bit of an imbalance where somebody can be very strong in the desire for self-improvement, but very low on the self-acceptance. And one of the things that happens with these paradoxical strengths is when there is that imbalance, there's a tendency under stress to end up exhibiting the opposite strength in the extreme. So, for example, if somebody tends to be very diplomatic and they're weak in frankness, when they get to the point where their diplomacy is not working for them, then they end up going to the extreme and exhibiting great frankness without diplomacy. So they overreact in the opposite direction.
And when we look back at stories that we have seen and are familiar with, one example of a way that these paradoxical strengths show up is in the musical Hamilton. And looking at Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr, we actually see two sides of these paradoxical strengths. And they're in the kind of the phrases that each of them say multiple times. For Hamilton, it's "I'm not throwing away my shot." For Aaron Burr, it's "wait for it." And those paradoxical strengths of ambition versus patience. And throughout 90% of the story, Hamilton is full on ambition, and we see some of the troubles that gets him into. And Aaron Burr is full on patience, and we see some of the areas that doesn't work out the way that he wants it to. And all the way till the very end, when they're in a very stressful situation because they are in a duel.
Yes.
No, I can't really think of much more stressful situation than that. And they both flip to the opposite. And Hamilton waits, and Burr doesn't throw away his shot.
And that strength imbalance leads to it ends in failure for them. Their paradoxical imbalance ends in failure, but we want our characters to lead to growth and success. That's what we want to see different, where their character arcs come at it, and rather than switching sides, we want to see them each be able to develop the complementary strength. That's what we'd like to see in the end of our growth in the characters. And that means having an even number of main characters in every one of our stories, so that we can explore some pair of paradoxical strengths and see each one grow in the other. I think they will have a moment of stress where they flip, and that's probably going to be their inciting incident that leads to whatever helps them to develop the opposite strength. Well, that's what we've been exploring. We've been looking at how we can make those kinds of things happen in our story. Our question for you is, what's an example of a story where you can see paradoxical strengths like we just looked at with Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton? What other examples that you can think of? Let us know that in the comments, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.